Hello and welcome to this Roll for Crit review. I am Batman, and this is a lie. All right, outside of the bad Warhammer 40k joke, this is Batman Everybody Lies. This is from the Detective A Modern Crime board game family from Portal Games. So, if you've ever played any of the games in that series or just watched our videos about any of the entries, then a lot of this is gonna seem similar. This is a game in which you play through multiple decks and chapters. So, this is a prologue here, but there will be up to 3 for you to go through in this one, not choose. Each chapter will start with a little prologue entry here, which you can open up and giving you your starting leads and any rules changes as well. With you being able to search through this deck, when it tells you to find a certain number, which will give you more leads, which will lead to other numbers throughout the deck. I'm trying my best not to show too much to not spoil anything. As we be going through these cards and of course different locations, there will be a timer which will not only check out your score, but you can only have so much time until you are forced to solve the mystery. I've played through most of the detective games, and each one has its own little gimmicks and twists to try to make it fit more of the theme or time period it's designed to be, and this one is no exception. Obviously, this one's designed to fit in the world that is Gotham City and, of course, Batman's domain. And like I said, you will have the one prologue and 3 chapters. But even though this is based on the famous world of Batman, you do not actually play as Batman. You will play as one of these 4 characters, and with the exception of Catwoman, could mostly be considered your average ordinary citizen. So you will not be playing as the great detective, but trying to solve mysteries in the city, probably getting some help from the great detective along the way, in order to solve the overarching plot of what's going on and currently plaguing Gotham. However, this game takes a whole new step in terms of how you choose your playable character. In previous games, there were ways for you, each character sort of specialize either in getting a certain resource, and this one's no exception. Each one can earn these special tokens that are used to unlock later locations and help you visit them. But the other big thing you may notice is personal gold deck. For you see, the prologue doesn't have one, but later chapters, not only is there one for everyone to read, but there are personal little secret goals as well. These are going to be more along the lines of you trying to find out other kinds of information, and usually at the end of the mission, where just like in the Red Detective games, they'll ask you questions about the mystery. Each character will have a question they will need to answer that they were personally expected to answer. As you play, you will often actually get to be told to pull from this personal secret gold deck. These are additional cards that have lettering that could either A, give more boons, help you solve your personal quest, maybe just some other fun little things and tidbits, as well as, of course, giving you another secret thing to read. Keep in mind, most of them will cost one of these personal tokens down here that you earn from simply just spending one of these. Another big thing is this scene deck. Now, I wouldn't say this is actually new to Detective. If you've played the Dune one, there were sort of little entries that you'd see, but you type into the website. They just slapped a deck here, which I think does fit more because the way these work as they're more like little comic panels for you to read. And they may include some, clues for you that may help you on whatever your current mystery is. A couple other final differences. Like I said, you will unlock some of these locations, though each time you visit a location, so let's just say we go here, you're going to flip the location over, meaning the next time you go there, it's going to cost you a little bit more. Now, most of these symbols, like I said, can be earned from spending these evidence tokens from either reading those cards or other ways. And of course, even if you don't play with the full 4 players, you'll still have access to that token. You also have this map of Gotham over here, and that's up to you to find out how to best utilize it. But in the end, this is still a detective modern crime board game. So go through the chapter, solve the mystery in time, answer the questions, go to the website and make sure you input the right ones there, and hopefully you'll solve the mystery in time. If you haven't watched any of our previous detective games before, you should know that I'm going to do my best not to spoil anything here, be it more helpful for you to know whether you like this or not, because I think it is up to you to experience the story. That said, I'll try my best to describe how I feel about the story, the mechanics, and how it compares to the other games in the series. Let's first look at, though, the characters, because this is really the biggest thing, at least to me, that changes things. When I first heard about these secret goals, I was actually groaned a little bit. I was like, oh, this is going to be like Dead of Winter when we're all arguing and focusing so much on our own personal things, we're going to lose the main objective and lose sight of it. That is not what happened. If anything, I felt this worked better more as not only a guide, but also a way to help immerse yourself in the world. When playing this game, instead of it being a sort of fight of where to go, what would tend to happen is, let's say you had 4 different leads, you weren't sure which one to go first. Well, someone would be like, well, I want to learn more about the mafia. Can we start there? And you'd be like, okay, yeah, that's a good place to go. Now, you do get only certain amount of these evidence tokens, and there are times when you're like, ooh, we should make sure we can spend the right ones because I really want to go here, but I also want to make sure I have my personal token. But for the most part, if you've at least try to work together, it shouldn't be too difficult. Now, this also comes from someone who's used to the fact of when you play not even a detective game, any kind of mystery solving game, there's oftentimes you need to make a couple leaps of faith and just try to understand, like, this is probably what happened. So don't expect to read every card. That said, if you do have that kind of understanding of these mystery games under your belt, I don't think there's going to be any actual too much argument here. If anything, you're just going to feel like, oh, I'm reading up and I'm feeling more like Catwoman because I may be looking, I'm trying to help out, but there's some loot I'm gonna maybe try to pick up along the way, just to keep it safe. And then, of course, the scene deck I found, as for someone like me who's much more of a visual person, I really liked that. I liked being able to actually see little pictures. It actually was usually like when you drew one of these cards, say like draw scene 2, you'd look at it and then read the card, and it would actually be what's going on there. So it would repeat the line, which I know some people might be like, well, why did they should have been extra? And I'm like, no, it helps you see what's going on there in the environment. And of course, there's some other things in there too for future cases. Don't want to say too much. There aren't things maybe you just experience, but evidence that you may want to look into and think about along the way. Another thing that is more of a small thing, but I definitely enjoyed when it came to the characters as well. And you always want to keep people in a game like this sort of part of the game, and sometimes it's about who's going to do the reading. Well, if you look at all these cards, they'll have someone's portrait up here. That's because it's from that character's perspective. So if we went to this card, for example, whoever is playing Vicky can be the one to read it. This way you can have everyone read the cards that make sense for their character out loud. And of course, you can have fun trying to give each of them their own voice and whatnot. And this way, everyone is actually participating in the game in a way that they don't feel like they got left out by a role they don't like, or they don't want to be the one who takes all the notes. Now, I do want to get to these special tokens here. The thing is, if you've played any of the previous ones, in particular the original one, there was something you had to be careful about how you spent them. Is it worthwhile? But if you played the Dune one of the things we talked about is we didn't feel like there was much of a challenge, and I sort of feel that here. It's not that the challenge as much as this. The way you unlock these, as you can see here, is to spend 2 evidence tokens, and even the personal ones are to spend 1. So the way I felt like these are just extra steps. If it could have just said evidence tokens, but I feel like these are put in here to make the game feel a bit more like they had their unique powers and reasons, but without, I think, either punishments or more specific things in the story cards that required them. I really felt like it was just some extra steps there to give it sort of the illusion of complexity rather than actually doing something mechanically unique for the game. Next thing I want to actually go into more detail is the theme itself. Obviously, for example, compared to Dune, no offense to Dune fans out there, but I think Batman is a much better fit. I mean, he's the world's greatest detective. It makes sense that he would fit well in Detective, a modern crime board game. But like I said, you don't play as Batman. And in fact, I mean, I know Harvey from the 90s cartoon, but I think Catwoman would be the only one would be a safe bet people may recognize of the playable characters. And honestly, I like that more because similar to the Sherlock Holmes detective game, having Batman not as a playable character, but rather as someone out there that can also be sort of helping you out, or at least also sort of like a guardian angel, really has you play less as the hero and you have to play as if you can be the hero and have that power fantasy. You are playing as, well, a normal citizen. And the same goes with actually with how you interact with the world. You're gonna see plenty of name drops, plenty of villains and heroes, but I think it's not gonna be, you're not gonna be talking to Scarecrow in every card. You're gonna be talking to councilwomen, you're gonna be talking to informants, and of course, when those big name characters come up, you're going to feel them in where they would most likely should belong. Now, this could be disappointing for some people as they would like to see all the characters they know and love from either the shows or movies. By the way, this is based more on the comic, and honestly, I feel the 90s show, but I can't say that for certain. But people expect those big name characters. They're in here. Just don't expect them to pop up constantly like, oh, remember this character? They'll show up and you will have those moments, but I like it's just enough that I feel like that you shouldn't, like, Gotham is a city full of more than just costume people. I will say that is not as much true in the final chapter. I felt like the last chapter, it's not that it's bad. I feel like it sort of it was the crescendo and the final battle like all condensed into one. And for a mystery novel, I feel like usually that's stretched out a bit more. And I feel like it easily could have been an extra chapter, even two, with the mystery that the way that this, at least mystery storyline, culminates. In fact, it was a little disappointing there because when you find out what's going on, I could easily have seen that there's been more here. I mean, obviously, more content, the better. I don't know whether it's a Warner Brothers issue or Portal Games wants to make sure there's only this many chapters per Detective Core set. But regardless, the actual story itself was fun. It just felt a little rushed and condensed near the end. Crits and misses for Batman, Everybody Lies. Crits. The theme and mechanics are a fantastic combination. Not only does it make perfect sense for Gotham to be a part of the Detective Modern Crime series, but the way that you have it play as characters that are much more relatable to us, while Batman still being around and you meeting plenty of other famous Batman locations and characters makes me feel completely a part of the world that is Gotham. The personal goal deck and the scene deck are perfect additions for the Detective game series. I've had problems with recent entries making it feel like my character choice didn't really matter too much. This time, mechanically, it doesn't matter too much as you can have the informants still have the powers to get the resources you need, but with the personal goal deck, you actually get your own little storyline, meaning that whoever you choose, you get to actually walk in their shoes. And of course, for those who are more visually inclined, the scene deck is a great addition and rewards you sometimes with some cool clues. If anything, I hope Portal uses this more in other detective games, as well as even make them even more important to the storyline. To some, this crit may be a miss, but for me, I think it's actually very important that you're not actually playing as Batman. For many mystery games, I think it's very important to have the smartest character in the room, so to speak, not be playable. Whether it's Armitage in Arkham, Sherlock in London, or Batman in Gotham, having these characters as an NPC that sort of can help guide the way instead of actually being a playable character allows people to grow in their own ways instead of feeling they have to live up to the power fantasy and ideals that is the pinnacle hero. Misses. Story-wise, I thought this was a fun jaunt in the world of Gotham, but my biggest problem ended with the final chapter. To me, we hit the crescendo and then it went full speed ahead in something that could have easily let simmer for maybe an extra chapter or two. And yes, I'm always up for more stories and playing the detective series, but in particular, I do feel like this story actually could have used some more breathing room. Outside of evidence tokens, all the other tokens feel a bit extra and just there for the sake of being there. They're mostly used for locations, while the personal ones for cards, but you just spend evidence tokens for them. There wasn't any real need to bank them or be worried that we only have so much to spend. It really just felt like you could have just had evidence tokens as the cost for everything, and that would have been fine. When I played the first detective, I found it to be difficult, but I loved it. I loved the really trying to have to be careful with your time and choosing to do multiple locations first going to another one, having much more harder resources to gain and how to use them efficiently. But it seemed they got rid of most of these things in later ones, and I don't know if they plan to maybe bring those back for their own core line series, or whether they're just keeping the crossover ones to just keep a more streamlined one. I only bring this up more not because I find this version like, oh, it's too easy. I think this was a fun Batman story. And my problems are I wish it went longer, and I feel like Batman it's just too good of a fit for detective. I felt like the dark, gritty world that is Gotham is the kind of place where I really want to be challenged, and I want to be like, do we really want to go there, or are we going to get hurt because the Joker could be there or something? I mean, there are some pretty scary people in the Batman's Rogue Gallery, and I could see that totally working here. This is a much simpler but still fun storyline, and the new mechanics of the personal goal and the scene deck, while the Dune one, the stickers, we felt like they didn't really do much. This is something I would love to see in future iterations. It got me into the world more. I felt like I was actually playing these cards, rewarded of thinking not only how to play them, but actually help speedline some of the game in terms of choosing who should read a card, or if we have multiple leads, which one we go to. It was something that I think worked both mechanically in the sense of actually solving the mystery, but also in terms of me actually experiencing the world. I just wish I could get this with these similar mechanics in the sort of interesting problems that the original Detective brought to the table. Now, hopefully they'll do a lot more here. I hope this is really successful and they're able to bring more stories from the Batman world with this system, because I think it's a perfect fit. Like I said, I know some people will be disappointed about not playing Batman, but I could see other stories changing up the characters. I mean, the obvious one, in fact, I think they actually just released a trailer or some gameplay, would be to play as the sidekicks, Barbara Gordon, Nightwing. I don't know how many Robins. I don't know which one names they would use, but to play as them, and there's a bit more of the power fantasy there, but you're still not playing as the main detective. I think there's a lot of fun ways you can take this that are in the world of Gotham, or even leaving the DC world, but still, not DC world, the Gotham City, but still really sticking to just Batman and just focusing on the mysteries and doing what I like this one did. Keeping the costume heroes in the world, but not constantly in your face. Let me know what your thoughts on this are in the comments down below, either if you've already played it, but of course, if you have, keep it spoiler free, or if you're interested because you are a Batman and or detective modern crime board game fan. What do you think of the new mechanic? Do you like the idea of having personal goals and things to look into as well as the scene deck? Or do you feel it's not enough? And if you don't think it's enough, do you have a problem with it altogether and don't want to see it more? Or do you think it's just something that they need to invest more and maybe make it more integrated within the system? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, if you know someone who might be interested, share this video with them. Till then, I'm Will, and this has been a Roll for Crit.